In September 1939, Germany invaded Poland. Within 2 weeks, the US stock market had recovered from its initial shock, and within 3 months, it was higher than before the war began. In March 2003, the United States invaded Iraq. The stock market rallied on the day the bombs dropped. The official explanation is that markets price in uncertainty. Once war begins, uncertainty is resolved, prices recover. But that explanation leaves out the most important part. War does not just resolve uncertainty, it activates the most powerful money creation mechanism in modern government. By the end of this video, you will understand the exact mechanism that links war spending to asset prices, and why that mechanism was designed to work exactly the way it does. If you have savings, a pension, or any investment, the money you hold is directly connected to every war your government finances, not through patriotism, not through politics, through a monetary mechanism most people have never heard of. This is not an accident. This is a system, and this video is about how it works. Here is the story most people know. Wars cost money. Governments borrow to pay for them. Defense companies get contracts. Their stocks go up. The economy gets a boost from military spending. Jobs are created. This is the visible layer, and it is true. In World War II, US GDP grew by 13% per year. Unemployment dropped from 17% to under 2%. By the time the war ended, America was the world's largest creditor nation. War, in the accounting ledger of modern economies, looks like a stimulus package. But that is only what the surface numbers show. What those numbers do not show is who paid for it and how. When a government declares war, it faces an immediate problem. Wars are expensive. Tax revenue is not enough. Borrowing takes time. So governments use a third option. They instruct their central bank to create money. A central bank is the bank that all other banks use. In the United States, that is the Federal Reserve. In the United Kingdom, it is the Bank of England. When a government needs money for war, the central bank buys government bonds. A bond is a promise. Lend us money now, we will repay you later. The central bank creates that money electronically, from nothing. The mechanism that determines where that new money goes first has a name, and it is hiding in plain sight. The mechanism is called the Cantillon Effect, named after Richard Cantillon, an economist from the 1700s. His insight was simple. When new money enters an economy, it does not reach everyone at once. It travels through a sequence, and the people who receive it first benefit most. Here is how that sequence works during wartime. The government receives the new money first. It spends it immediately on weapons, contracts, logistics. Defense companies receive those payments next. Their revenues rise. Their stock prices rise. Shareholders receive dividends. Asset prices rise. All of this happens before the new money reaches ordinary workers and consumers. By the time that money reaches your grocery store, your landlord, your fuel pump, prices have already risen to absorb it. Your wages grow last. Your costs grow first. War spending does not create wealth. It transfers wealth from savers and wage earners to asset holders and contractors. The stock market rises during wartime, not because the economy is healthy. It rises because new money reaches asset markets before it reaches prices. That is the sequence. That is the mechanism. Now here is the number that makes it impossible to ignore. Here is the number that changes everything. Between 2001 and 2021, the 20 years of the War on Terror, the United States spent an estimated $8 trillion on military operations. The S&P 500, the index that measures the 500 largest U.S. companies, rose by 290% over that same period. The U.S. national debt rose from $5.7 trillion to $28 trillion. That debt was monetized, turned into money through Federal Reserve bond purchases. Every dollar of that spending entered the financial system before it entered the economy. Asset holders benefited first. Workers absorbed the inflation last. This is not discussed in mainstream coverage because it is not a political story. It is a structural one. It operates the same way regardless of which party is in power. So what does this mechanism mean for you? First, if you own assets, wartime monetary expansion tends to inflate them. Stocks, real estate, commodities. The Cantillon Effect works in your favor if you are close to the money supply. Second, if you hold cash or depend on wages, the opposite is true. Inflation erodes the purchasing power of savings. Wages grow more slowly than asset prices. The gap between those who own assets and those who do not widens. This is why in every major war since 1945, the decade that followed saw rising inequality and rising asset prices simultaneously. It is not a coincidence. It is the mechanism working as designed. There is a third implication that almost nobody discusses. When governments can create money to fund wars, the cost of war becomes invisible to voters. A war funded by taxes produces immediate political resistance. A war funded by money creation produces inflation, slowly, diffusely, years later. By the time the price rises arrive, the political decision is long past. Monetary financing of war is not just an economic mechanism. It is a political mechanism. It makes the cost of conflict invisible at the moment it is decided. The relationship between war and financial markets is not random. It is not sentiment. It is not patriotism. It is a sequence. Money is created. It enters asset markets first. Stock prices rise. Defense contractors profit. Inflation arrives last, paid by the people furthest from the source. The system is not broken. It is behaving exactly as designed. Most people will never understand why stocks rise when wars begin. Now you do.